Yo, yo, yo. Welcome in to the Phoenix Sports Podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a 5-star review. In the words of Bomani Jones, you leave a 4-star review. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. I'm your usual suspect, the one, the only Shawn DePaz, joined by not DJ Mackie P, because she's...
No, Mackie P.
DJ Bo Brock.
What's up?
Mackie P is off doing something. I don't know. She's never here. I don't think she really likes me. So I got Bo with me today. Bo, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I mean,
can I just say something?
Yes.
What's that? Bo looks so good right now.
Bo does look good. That shirt looks good.
Isn't it great?
It is good.
I saved myself some cash this week.
I was going to say.
It's already here. I placed the order.
Well, you placed the order for that this week?
Yeah. They shipped it. It showed up in my house yesterday. Unbelievable.
Hey, there's no better time to go get a shirt than right now, by the way, because there's a shirt sale. If you haven't heard, all of our shirts and hats, $24 only. That's a steal and a half. So make sure you head over to the PHNXLocker.com and get yourself a shirt right now. And with all that money you save, you can get some extra snacks, some extra Polar Pops, things of the sort from our friends over at Circle K. Because I don't know if you know this, Bo. Well, I'm sure you know this.
Yeah.
Circle K is the best gas station on the planet.
Well aware.
And they just got better somehow by introducing their Inner Circle Club. You can join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. You get 25 cents off your first 5 fill-ups per gallon. That's insane. You get free beverages every 6 purchase, I believe, of like dispensed beverages and food and stuff like that. You get something free. It's absurd. They're giving you free stuff. So make sure you check out our friends over at Circle K.
Tough to beat what they're doing over at Circle K.
It really
Are we
is.
talking about Factor, though? I mean, what Factor's got going? I mean, for a single guy like yourself or a family man like me.
It's for everybody.
Our lives are in a time crunch.
They
Why
are.
not save some time by eating some delicious meals prepared by our friends over at Factor? Too busy this summer. Plans to cook. Who's got time for that? Make sure you're eating well. Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store. Take advantage without the chopping, the prepping, the cleaning up. You get the flavor, you don't compromise it, and you get the nutritional value as well. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. Just pop them in the microwave. No sense. Like our guy, Johnny Venerable, he's a fancy boy. He puts them in the stove. He thinks he's like,
does he really?
Emeril Lagasse. He
Oh
thinks
my
he's like he's a TV chef. He's wrong. All you got to do is put these in the microwave for 2 minutes. You're good to go.
You don't even have to
Enjoy
dirty
the
a
Factor meals.
dish because I'm a lazy piece of
No
shit.
dirty dishes.
No dirty dishes.
Nothing.
I've got disposable utensils in my apartment, so I pop that thing in the microwave for 2 minutes. Use a disposable fork. No evidence.
There you go.
No evidence
It's
on
the
the
perfect crime. It's the
It is
perfect crime. Factormeals.com/, of course, PHNX50. Get in on it right now. Save yourself 50% off. That's factormeals.com/PHNX50. Save yourself some coin while saving yourself some time while still eating good with Factor.
Yeah. John Paul Edward DeDios in the chat saying Bo putting in some extra work. That he is. Shout out everyone that's in the chat. Chris, Charles, Jan. We appreciate you all pulling through. Also, I don't know if he's in the chat right now, but I know he's going to watch this later. Shout out our friend Daniel. He's the GOAT. He's always hooking us up. I don't know if you know this, but ASU played a game until damn near 2 in the morning yesterday, or at least our PHNX Sun Devils crew was here until 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, I believe. And he sent them coffee. What a guy. We've got the best fans on the planet.
Did the Sun Devils, did they know that there was a second half to be played?
I don't
Shut
know.
up, Bo. I have coffee.
Yeah. We don't care.
Thank
We
you,
got
Daniel.
a dub. It might be more than your team's gonna
Bo,
get this year.
you're a dirty little mud grub.
Whoa,
Oh, okay.
That sounds like
That
Never
sounds
mind.
like this guy was up till like 2 or 3 in the morning. He didn't have a good insult. He called me a mud grub.
mud grub.
You got grubby little hands, Bo.
Enough of the mud grubs. I don't know if you've been paying attention to what we've got going on over here at PHNX this week, but we've been releasing our PHNX Ranks list of top 25 Arizona athletes of all time. And no, it is not like an internal. It wasn't just Bo in a corner making his top 25. We polled journalists and members of the media from all over the state, even down south. So don't come at us with the abundance of ASU athletes that are on this list.
It's a Sun Devil bias. It's
yeah.
a Wildcat bias. No, this was...
Mike Luke's out here complaining. He could have filled out the form, but he didn't want to. So eat your heart out. But the list of top 25 was very interesting. There were some names in some interesting spots, some names that maybe you didn't expect to see, some maybe that you did expect to see and you didn't see. So let's get right into it. The bottom 5 of the top 25, 21 through 25. And the ASU lean starts early. Keith Kachuk at 25, Reggie Jackson at 24, obviously an ASU baseball player, Danny White, an ASU quarterback, James Harden, an ASU basketball player, and then Annika Sorenstam, arguably the greatest female golfer of all time, from the down south, U of A. Off rip, anything stick out to you about this?
James Harden at 22, pretty solid collegiate career.
Yeah.
As far as what he did post-college, might be one of the best NBA products that the state of Arizona has ever produced. And I know he's from California, but he's
a dog.
Yeah,
he's a dog.
Absolute dog.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the fact that he was, a college athlete, spent 3 years here, or 2 years here? 2 or 3? Just 2? Yeah. Obviously, you got a limited time to make an impact as a college athlete. And the important thing to point out here is that this is at least supposed to be based on what they did as athletes in Arizona.
Right. That's huge. That's a huge part of the criteria.
Yeah, which kind of maybe a little bit of a head scratcher with a guy like Reggie Jackson, who was only here for a brief time as an ASU baseball player. And obviously, he was great while he was here. He has the record for most home runs in a season with a wood bat in college baseball. So he's obviously a legend in his own right, but most of what he accomplished happened as a professional, not here in Arizona.
Mr. October.
Yeah, and I am glad to see someone like Annika Sorenstam getting the respect of being on this top 25 because, it's no secret. Women's sports don't get the respect that they deserve quite often, and she was, arguably the greatest to ever do it. And she was dominant at the U of A. 1991 individual champion, 7 collegiate titles, a Pac-10 championship.
7? Is that possible?
I don't even know. That's what the info I got from Espo.
Was she a doctor? How did she win 7
I mean, there's different. Listen, don't ask. I'm not.
Went to med school.
Yeah. Pac-10 champion, NCAA co-player of the year. She was dominant.
Unbelievable.
She was. Let's get into our next 5, 19 through 20. And this is where it starts getting interesting. Right there at number 20, a guy very controversial, but also very good at baseball, Curt Schilling. 19, Terrell Suggs, arguably the best ASU football player ever. Set the NCAA record for sacks. He was dominant. Another ASU guy, Randall McDaniel, one of the greatest.
Sizzle's low here, isn't he? T-Sizzle's low.
Yeah,
I mean, dominant in high school. And then, of course, the 1,000 sacks that he had in his final season for the Sun Devils. 19's pretty low.
I think I would agree with that as well. I mean, I think the college athletes are a little bit of a disadvantage, and you'll see that once we get closer to the top of the list. You don't see as many of them. But they only had a brief time to make an impact. But Terrell Suggs, he's one of the greatest to ever do it. I don't think that's a question. ASU Hall of Fame.
People get confused. They saw he went to Ball So Hard University, and they thought, he's not. They forget he's a Sun Devil.
No, I think, I seriously, I think he was so dominant as a professional that people kind of forget how dominant he was as a Sun Devil. I think he deserves to be a little bit higher on that list too. The Curt Schilling thing is a very interesting part of this, because obviously a very controversial figure. Not a very good person. As a matter of fact, he's
on social
a piece
media.
of shit. I hate Curt Schilling as a human being. But the fact of the matter is that he was great as a baseball player, and he's a large part of the reason that the city has a professional men's championship, as we'll get into later. But he's a big part of it. Co-MVP with Randy Johnson. If we're basing this just on what happened on the field, I think Curt Schilling has to be higher.
Yeah.
Again, one of the most dominant pitchers of all time. That 2001 season he had was genuinely one of the best pitching seasons of all time.
He was so dialed in that postseason.
Yes, he really was.
I mean,
He, like I said, he won co-MVP. So
not a lot of people can upstage the big unit, and he nearly did that.
He nearly did. As I've said multiple times, if we're basing this on things larger than what they did for the franchises they played for, I don't think Curt Schilling belongs on this list. For the same reason I don't think he belongs in the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame. But based on simply performance, he definitely deserves at least an acknowledgement for that. Paul Goldschmidt is also very interesting for reasons we'll get into later once we get into some of the other lists. But his stats are very comparable to another notable Diamondback with one very important detail
Okay.
in between. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But before we do that, got to tell you about our friends over at OG's. They're all about flavoring life.
Yeah.
They're simply the best at THC infused gummies in the state of Arizona. And you know, it's a felony to take them out across state lines, so don't do that. But they are amazing regardless of where you have them. OG's, they're the best. They've got something for everybody too. You know, they have the CBD infused gummies. I finally had one of the Happy Balance ones the other day, and the strawberries and cream is the best flavor they have, in my opinion. I love it. It's it's dethroned the pink lemonade, which was limited time, and the orange creamsicle. The strawberries and cream is amazing. Plus, it's got that touch of CBD, so it gives you the calming effects you get of the CBD. But they have the variety packs, the fruits, the creams. They got their sleepy gummies, sativas, and because they got it all. So make sure you check out our friends over at OG's. Try them for yourself. Any of the delicious flavors. Check them out across all their socials at OG's Brands and online at ogsbrands.com to find them at a local dispensary near you. You must be 21 or older to enjoy responsibly. And also, as we were talking about the Arizona Diamondbacks, they got a couple of guys on this list.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, they might have a couple of guys playing now who might end up on this list later on. Looking at you, Corbin Carroll. Looking at you, Zach Gallen. If you re-sign, please.
Christian Walker?
Okay.
Could he stumble onto this list somehow?
I mean,
Josh Rojas when he comes back after dominating in Seattle.
Stop it. I mean, Josh Rojas is an Arizona athlete. Shout out Maryvale. Shout out the West Side. Yeah, you could go see some of the Arizona Diamondbacks that might end up on this list in the future right now. And if you're going to, you got to do it with our friends over at Game Time because they've got the best prices and you can go see them for $8. The Diamondbacks are in the middle of a playoff race, and the Baltimore Orioles, not exactly in the middle of a playoff race because, I don't know if you know this, they're the best team in the American League. And you can go see them for $8. And it's not like they're a bunch of like old folk that you've been seeing for years. They've got some of the most exciting young players in baseball. Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, who should be the runner-up for AL Rookie of the Year behind Masataka Yoshida. You plan on getting out at any of these games?
Going Saturday.
You are?
And I'm looking at $8. Orioles are in town. It's just Cal Ripken jersey number of getting in the door.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Under $10.
I know you know some Orioles fans.
I do.
You're associated with some of them.
From the area.
Yeah, exactly. So
recovering.
Big series. I mean, this is like when the Red Sox came to town. I had to go see them, even though I'm no longer a Red Sox fan. I'm an Arizona Diamondbacks fan. You got to see what your ex is up to. You got to see.
Right.
You got to
always checking on that.
Yeah, always checking.
Just don't text them.
Don't text them. So make sure if you're gonna go to, if you're texting the Baltimore, I want to text the Baltimore Orioles. I want to text Adley Rutschman. That dude's sexy. Anyways,
also a fan of I Think You Should Leave.
Oh yeah.
Yes, he is.
You know
this is an I think you should leave TPSP today.
I like that the Orioles, they do have some solid like entrances. Like I've seen Adley Rutschman. He went in no shirt and then overalls look.
Yeah, the Phillies did that.
Yeah,
I think yesterday
is that
they
a
all
strong
came
look?
in. I think it is.
Okay.
When you're a pro baseball player, you can do whatever you want. You're a professional athlete.
Adley Rutschman's built like a farmer.
Yeah, he is.
So he's perfect for that.
Got that farmer's build.
Yeah, farmhand Rutsch.
I mean, that's the catchers are the most farmer position.
Yeah.
They're like that's the most blue collar working man
just
position.
Just around bales of hay.
Yeah, that's the only position that Evan Gaddis can play, and that's the most country motherfucker to ever play the sport of baseball.
Alejandro Kirk would be a great farmhand.
He is a fucking cannonball of a human being. But if you're going to go, like I said, see the Diamondbacks, make sure you do it at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time, last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And again, make sure you go see Diamondbacks this weekend for $8 on a draft or our Game Time game of the week.
LTC in the cut just woke up, I think, from the ASU game.
Yeah, LTC. I mean, yeah, he was here late night. But yeah, you do need to give them more of your attention. You can go see them for $8. Go check them out. They're in a playoff race. But we got more of our rankings, so let's keep going. I think we're 16 to 20 now, or 11 to 15. Yeah. 15 Curly Culp, to which somebody in this office, I'm not going to expose them, but said, who?
Wow.
Question mark? I've never heard of him. He's only the greatest ASU athlete of all time, I would argue. All-American in football, and also A national champion in wrestling, heavyweight.
5 of the 8 people that went to ASU that I asked also did not know who that
Well,
was.
that's their fault.
Yeah, I don't.
They went to ASU.
I mean, that's a problem for them.
Yeah, that's insane. That they didn't know
absurd.
that. I don't know
and
a
also,
single
one of them was probably
ASU.
Michaela Perkins. Let's be honest. It was it. It probably was. Anyways, Curly Cole is one of the greatest of all time. But right in front of him is one of the greatest of all time from the school down south, Sean Elliott.
Which is tough. This is a tough one because it's to separate Sean Elliott, the collegiate player,
Yes.
and then, of course, that dirty dog that was a Spur.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I'll say it right now. Spoiler alert. That is the highest ranked U of A athlete that you'll see on this list. Saul shouts as a travesty. Your reaction to that?
It's just, the U of A guys didn't show up.
Yeah.
Mike Luke didn't even participate in this.
And I will say this. I do think it's fair that Sean Elliott is the highest ranked U of A athlete. I think, right? Like, I'd say it's fair that he's the highest ranked U of A athlete. But I think I will acknowledge that it is kind of absurd that him and Annika are the only ones that appear on this list. But I do think, and I've said this a bunch of times, I think that U of A is almost at a disadvantage for how good their basketball program is. That there's like so many names you could pick from that. Obviously, I think Sean Elliott is the best, but there's so many guys that have played as a part of that program that you could put on this list. Whereas you look at ASU basketball, it's like obviously it's James Harden.
Mike Bibby might be the biggest omission, though.
Yeah, I would agree. And I want to talk about some of the big names that have been left off this list in a little bit. But yeah, 15 Curly Culp, 14 Sean Elliott, 13 Aeneas Williams, 12 Jake Plummer, 11 Luis Gonzalez. I wanted to let you talk about Aeneas Williams for a second because that is the name I think that has probably got the least amount of like star power that you'll see this high up on this list. Like out of all of the names that you will see from the rest of this list, I feel like it's a name that doesn't get brought up all that much when you talk about Arizona athletes.
Right, and he unfortunately had to play for some really, really bad or Phoenix Cardinals teams, and he got traded out, got an opportunity to potentially win a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the Rams, the greatest show on turf, ran into the beginning of the Patriots dynasty, and Aeneas Williams never got to hoist that Lombardi trophy. But his time in the desert, he was a top 5 cornerback most of the time. I mean, he was unbelievable and was one of the kind of fixtures for a long time here in the Valley, the Sun, and just beloved cornerback for the Arizona Cardinals organization and just played the game the right way. Is unbelievable off the field. Aeneas Williams deserves his flowers, has his spot here on the top 25, deserves it just as much as anybody else.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get into our next 5. I believe this is, 6 through 10, right? And this was where it gets really, really interesting to me. I mean, the whole list has been really interesting. But going from the bottom, 10, Kurt Warner, 9, Shane Doan, 8, Pat Tillman, 7, Devin Booker, and 6, Phil Mickelson. What stands out to you the most about this section? Because I know what stands out the most to me.
It's so uneven as far as, like, Kurt Warner he did a lot in a short amount of time. Yeah. Shane Doan did obviously a 20-year career
Mr. Coyote,
here. Yeah, absolutely. Just the face of hockey in the desert. Pat Tillman kind of transcends what he did on the playing field.
That's the one where it's like I pointed out earlier, the important, like, this list is about what you've done on the field, but like Pat Tillman, you can't. I feel like those rules don't apply to Pat Tillman.
Sure.
Like, he is so much bigger, and also like was a terrific college football player.
Unbelievable.
Like Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year. Like, he was terrific, and I mean he was a solid player for the Cardinals, right? But obviously
he went from 7th rounder to starting his rookie year to earning another deal with the organization, and then walking away from that deal. And then I think as we keep sports and athletics in this, I mean the Pat Tillman obviously race or whatever each and every spring. I think that you can. That's such a huge event each and every year here. What's that?
You ever done that?
I have.
Did you have fun?
4.2 miles. What's that?
Did you have fun?
No, I was horrendously out of shape, and I have to admit I walked a little bit of it.
I think me, you, and Johnny should sprint it this year.
All right, I'm in.
Yeah, but to Shane Doan, oh, Jesus, wow. Shane Doan and Pat Tillman, those are two guys where it's like their impact is like their impact on like the sports like here are so much larger. It's like I get that a lot of these guys, a lot of these people have off the field impact, but specifically like a guy like Shane Doan, his off ice impact is still like an on the ice impact. It's part of the reason why the Coyotes are still even here is because of Shane Doan. He has been such an advocate for the franchise. So is his on-ice impact. Part of it is off ice. It's hard to explain, but like,
well, he was one of those guys throughout, even when they were, the last time they were a solid team and they made the Western Conference run in 2012. And there was the arena thing was already, or continued to be a conversation even way back then. And this was a guy that had to speak and be the face of the organization throughout all of that. And then in the locker room, he had to keep his guys focused. And Shane Doan did an incredible job doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Can you throw that back up real quick? I want thoughts on Devin Booker being this high at 7. Do you think that's fair? Or do you think it's premature?
No, I think that's fair. I mean, him kind of foreshadowing on a guy we're going to talk about here in Charles Barkley.
Yeah,
led the charge for a team going to a finals. I mean, he's in such young age, and he was the one that changed this organization. That was it was a feudal organization for 10 years. Yeah. It was brutal. Yeah. It was just a rudderless ship. And then they hit on Devin Booker, what was it, 13th overall in the draft, as like 18 years old. And he gets thrown into it his rookie year. He shows that promise, and then he drops 70. And then you're like, man, this guy's really good. And then you get him a supporting cast, and he becomes a superstar. Yeah. And the fact that he's bought in to this town in the Valley, like, I think that just like the Doan conversation, like, it transcends the basketball court.
Plus, a lot of people on this list were in Arizona for 5, 7, 8. Book's career is already 8 years long in the Valley.
That's wild.
And I mean, Devin Booker, again, his impact being larger than his individual performance. Like, you look at this team being finals contenders, being one of the best teams in basketball. It's because of Devin Booker and players wanting to play with him, right? Like, Chris Paul doesn't come here if Devin Booker's not here. Kevin Durant doesn't want to play here if Devin Booker's not here. Devin Booker is one of the most respected players in the game. Like, when you hear other NBA players talk about guys whose games they love to watch and respect, Devin Booker's name is a name that gets brought up a lot. And so the Suns being like a respectable basketball team again is in large part because of Devin Booker and his presence and his commitment to the team. So I think he does deserve to be up there. I don't necessarily think he deserves to be ahead of a guy like Shane Doan. I think Shane Doan deserves to be higher. And looking at that list, I think I would probably swap Kurt Warner and Gonzo. Gonzo being 11 seems low to me. I mean, he has the most important hit and I think arguably the most important single play in the history of Arizona sports. It's the reason we have again a men's
more people walked
pro
on the
sports
moon
ring.
than Mariano Rivera Blue saving the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. It was against the greatest closer of all time. He did
unbelievable.
That. So I think he deserves, and his 2001 season was absurd. So I think he deserves
even
a little.
Like, was he top 3 MVP voting that year? He had 57 jacks.
Yeah, it was absurd. No, and again, he was an outfielder at a time where there was a lot of outfielders hitting a lot of home runs, but still, I think he deserves a little more respect than that. But now,
wasn't it Karim Garcia in cash for Gonzo? That deal, that was the deal for Luis Gonzalez.
You're sicko.
Yeah, it's absurd. But the moment you've all been waiting for, the top 5, and we will get into some snubs and our personal top 5s. But the top 5 again, very interesting. Number 5, Steve Nash. Number 4, Charles Barkley. Number 3, Diana Taurasi. 2, Larry Fitzgerald, and 1, the one and only Randy Johnson.
Look at the big unit.
Yeah, I I mean, Randy Johnson. Argument for the best pitcher in history of baseball.
That was Shane after the Sun Devils win last night. He looks like the big unit.
No, it wasn't. I was trying to pull trig.
But I mean, thoughts on this? Obviously, Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, you have, I think, at the top of this list, 3 people that you can make a legitimate argument for being number 1.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of people in the Valley who do make that argument. So honestly, why don't we just get into our top 5 because they include a lot of these names. Throw up Bo's top 5 because. I sent it to you in Slack. Throw up my top 5 first. I have Diana Taurasi number 1. If we're talking about on-field performance, on-court performance, I don't think it is a conversation in the slightest. Diana Taurasi is the greatest basketball player of all time, greatest women's basketball player of all time. I'm not going to sit here and try to compare her to LeBron James or Michael Jordan, but when you look at accomplishments, she's the greatest to ever do it in the WNBA. She's got the rings. She's got an MVP. She's got the scoring record. I don't think it's a question. No one has been more dominant at their sport for a longer period of time. She's only done it for this organization in this city for years. She's the greatest to ever play the sport, to play in women's basketball. And I think the fact that she's not number 1 in a ranking based on field, on court performance is a travesty. So there's that. And then Shane Doan, I think, deserves to be top 5. I was going back and forth between Steve Nash and Charles Barkley being that son that goes in the top 5, but I think you got 2 MVPs. Steve Nash being one of the greatest point guards of all time. I think Chuck's legacy.
I can't put Doan in over Chuck. I can't.
I just think Doan is too important.
What that Suns team did for the Valley, for just the sports culture. I know Shane Doan did a great job in obviously keeping the Coyotes organization afloat, but like as far as Charles Barkley and what we know Valley sports to be, like he was one of the guys, along with Jerry Colangelo, obviously the godfather of Phoenix sports, that ushered it in, and I just can't keep him out of the top 5. I mean, and that's it's all relative, and I agree with you on Diana Taurasi as far as on the playing field, court of play, you can't deny that. Like the numbers are all there. Mm-hmm. But I think it goes beyond that. As far as this PHNX ranks list goes, and the bottom half of this top 10, what we're pointing out as far as the Tillmans, the Doans of the world, it wasn't just all about winning. It was about creating the culture and transcending the playing field, and that's why I've got Larry Fitz as my number 1. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy, what he's done for the community, like Larry Fitzgerald is completely involved in the community. How he eulogized a state senator, a guy who was a presidential candidate when John McCain passed away. He's got the Larry Fitzgerald First Down Fund. He's got so many things that he's got his hands in, and he continues to be a fixture in this community way beyond the years that he spent on the playing field. So I've got Fitz number 1. He also played with some of the worst collection of quarterbacks you've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, that's important because I mean, when you look at his accomplishments, obviously, I think the rings and postseason playoff performance always gets brought up. But and it's especially in a sport like football, Larry didn't really get much of an opportunity, and you can't hold that against him all that much.
Yeah, I've got Nash is somebody we've kind of glossed over a little bit. I think it's more bias on my behalf because I got to watch prime Steve Nash play, and one of the most incredible runs was that run and guns, the 7 seconds or less Suns team that kind of changed basketball, and it kind of turned into what it is now. Steve Nash, 2-time MVP, elevated just guys who were barely in the league, like a Quentin Richardson or Raja Bell's games. They weren't anybody before or after. Absolutely.
Don't talk smack about my boy Q.
But that's because Steve Nash, what he was able to do, get those guys those wide open looks, the pick and roll with Amari. I mean, it was elite. And
I didn't think I'd have to defend Quentin Richardson today. Normally, I feel like there's a chance. Today, I didn't think it would be the day.
It was
Quentin Richardson.
I was speaking in a positive light about Q.
No, you said he was barely in the league.
But this is why I like the PHNX ranks. This is the best thing. Getting with a group of your friends, cracking open a beer, and just
a couple 4 peaks,
talking about athletes. Mm-hmm. Just talking about your favorite athletes. You could sit here. We could sit here all day and do this. Just talk names. Just bring up.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and throw up mine. My number 1's Quentin Richardson.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Exactly. Everyone's favorite. Quentin Richardson 1 through 5. But yeah, it's a great topic to sit down with some friends, crack open some beers, and just talk for a little bit.
Whatever your fancy is.
But if you're drinking beers, you got to be drinking 4 Peaks. We got a fantasy draft tonight. I think the 4 Peaks might be flowing. I don't know, because nothing goes better with football than 4 Peaks. They're amazing. If you need a little pregame lunch, something like that. 4 Peaks.
Pregame lunch, my God, my man.
You gotta be fueled up. Or Saturdays, you watch some college football.
Yes.
4 Peaks A Street Pub is a spot to be. They've got a great selection of beer and even better food somehow because the beer's amazing. How they have better food is beyond me, but the food is better.
It's not just bar food.
No, it's not just bar food. They've got. I mean, the bar food that they do have is bar food on steroids. Their tenders are crazy. Their wings are crazy.
Their pizzas are crazy.
Their quesadillas, dog. And so much of their food, they have the beer in it, the way they cook it. So it's amazing. Make sure you check out 4 Peaks. You can visit 4peaks.com/locator to find all your favorite brewery tours and events. Steinholding, Oktoberfest, Haunted Brewery Tours are right around the corner. It's I feel like I need to say this.
Have you seen Steinholding?
It's insane. It seems like something I should be able to do, But I remember one time, I don't remember why, but somehow it came up. Maybe it was like an old-timey punishment in history class in middle school. But we all had to like keep our hands above our heads for like the entire class as long as we could. That was one of the most miserable experiences of my life. We also, I think, just got abused by my history teacher. It was optional. It was very optional.
Did you get put in the Iron Maiden later?
Yeah. They threatened me with a guillotine. It was crazy. But yeah, check out our friends at Fort Peaks. Check out at Fort Peaks Brew or at Fort Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. You must be 21 or older to drink Fort Peaks, and please drink responsibly.
All right, chat. Name a random athlete from Arizona. Bo, name a random athlete from Arizona. Go.
Let's see.
Steve Breston.
Ooh, that's a good 1,000-yard receiver.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was. He
That's
was one of
insane.
3 on the Arizona Cardinals. Pat Burke. Former Phoenix Sun, like 12th man.
Yeah, my obviously my Phoenix sports history is not as deep, so my favorite random Arizona athlete is Tim LaCastro.
Okay.
I love him. He's an upstate New Yorker and fast as fuck, boy. And he also loved getting hit by pitches, and I respect that because we always have ice. There's always ice in the dugout. Take the pitch. That's for me. That's me. Right. Also have to shout out our friends over at Illegal Pete's.
Stephen Hunter.
Oh.
Anybody else? We got people all over. Anybody? Whoa.
Ooh.
Saban Lee. Okay, well, you
That's
can't do someone that's here now. That's crazy.
I played AAU basketball with Saban Lee.
Damn.
He once told me in a Vegas hotel room to get serious because we had a game tomorrow and we all laughed at him. And now he's in the NBA. He was a year younger.
You should have gotten serious, dog. Maybe you would have been in the league.
I said the same thing as Saban Lee to you yesterday.
Get serious. But yeah, also got to shout out our friends at Illegal Pete's.
Marcini
honestly,
Gartot.
Yes. The worst part of yesterday,
hammer, baby.
The worst part, and yesterday sucked for a lot of reasons, but the worst part about being out in Tempe yesterday is that we didn't get to Illegal Pete's before. Didn't have an opportunity. Nothing worse than being in Tempe and not getting a legal pizza. It feels like a missed opportunity. So if you're in Tempe or anywhere near it, or even if you're not, it's worth the drive. Head over to Illegal Pete's. It's your go-to spot this summer. You can stop by for happy hour, 3 to 8 p.m. every day. That's a lot of hours. A lot of really happy hours. Emmett Smith, that's a fun one.
Yeah.
Adrian
Madison
Peterson.
Bumgarner is going to be one of those in a few years.
Very
the
true.
Torpedo, Lori
Very
Korpikoski.
Ooh, I like that. CWP.
But yeah, check out our friends over at Illegal Pete's.
DJ Strawberry.
Wow.
Yeah. I met him at Suns Camp one time.
Like I said, happy hour, 3 to 8 p.m. every day at every location. Illegal Pete's, the go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beer for 28 years. Before we get out of here, any names that you feel like were disrespected left off this list?
I think Andre Iguodala, obviously Mike Bibby that we got to, Luke Walton. I saw in the chat, Jenny Finch is probably the biggest one.
Jenny Finch to me
was dominant.
Is the biggest miss. I mean, you want to talk about someone who's the best to ever play their sport. That's Jenny Finch. She's in every celebrity, MLB celebrity all-star softball game because that's just her gig. And then my favorite part of that game every year is when Jenny Finch decides to get serious for like an at bat, and then she just starts fucking rifling them past these guys. It's awesome. Jenny Finch is a big miss. I'm gonna say it. Brittany Griner is one of the greatest WNBA players of all time. I'm not saying she deserves to be anywhere near the top of this list necessarily, but I think it's a name that should have been maybe in the discussion again if we're basing this just on court performance. She's one of the greatest to ever play women's basketball. She's one of the greatest Phoenix Mercury players of all time. I think she deserves to be somewhere near that list. And something that I've seen people bring up on social media, I think is an interesting point of discussion, the combat sports athletes, like guys like Henry Cejudo and Kane, who was an ASU athlete and then went on to be one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. And Henry Cejudo is just one of the greatest combat sport athletes of all time. They're obviously at a little bit of a disadvantage because they don't play Arizona sports.
They fight out of
but they
Arizona.
do represent them, and so that's interesting. Steve Kerr has 9 rings, but none of them were with Arizona State, or with Arizona or in Arizona. So, but so that's interesting. A lot of people bring up Michael Phelps, but he's not an Arizona athlete to me. He's not an Arizona athlete, so I want to put that out. And then there was one more.
He trained here for a summer.
Yeah, now his coach is Arizona State's athlete.
Elizabeth brings up Julie Ertz.
Julie Ertz, is she from here?
Yeah, she's from Mesa. And that's a tough one. It's like the criteria that you're trying to figure out. Like
she doesn't. Her
she
performance.
She was in Northern California. She went to Santa Clara or something like that. For
so
college,
there's a lot of people who are at a real interesting area. But yeah, Jenny Finch is a name that I definitely wanted to bring up because her being left off this list is an absolute travesty in my opinion. Again, the greatest to ever do it. I think she deserves some respect with this list. Anybody else?
I think
anybody Saul, you want to shout any U of A names out? Shane.
Saul wants to jump on the headset. Shane's reluctant.
I know he's got something to say.
I don't know what you guys have said so far.
Yeah, Jenny Finch was the big one that I felt like was left
Jenny
off as
Finch,
far as U of A.
I mean, when you talk about
Bibby,
like
Kerr.
singularly the best player in a specific sport in college sports history, how they got left off the list is an atrocity.
I agree.
Now, let me say a name that because Jenny Finch was so big, and she won multiple ESPYs, and they would always go out and she would strike out Pujols and stuff. Taryn Moat followed her, and she would if there was no Jenny Finch, like she would have been just as big.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, listen, multiple national championships, like Player of the Year award, like the list goes on and on. The other one that I definitely would have thrown out was Teddy Bruschi. Teddy Bruschi was a 2-time All-American, which was more than Pat Tillman, which was more than Terrell Suggs, which was more than just about any other ASU football player. He also dominated on a legendary defense at the time with Desert Swarm, which is a name brand, obviously, that they still even use to this day, even though the defense doesn't come close to reflecting that anymore. And dominated the Miami Hurricanes in the Fiesta Bowl 29-0. In your guys' home stadium, just so we know, because that's where the Fiesta Bowl used to be played. So Teddy Bruschi being left off of that as a 2-time All-American, and they were voted the #1 team in the country going into that next season. So
what about Brandon Webb?
That's tough because it's just like
won the Cy Young.
Yeah, but I feel like in the professional sports realm, you have to have playoff accomplishment.
Yeah. 2 Cy Youngs.
Didn't they go to the
and they got housed by the Rockies.
Yeah, it's tough. That era of Diamondbacks baseball is hard to give people. Like, I mean, you look at Paul Goldschmidt, who was on the list. His stats to Gonzo's are almost identical. Obviously, Gonzo has a ring and a very important hit, but like their stats are almost identical. So it's weird. Also, Barry Bonds is another name that gets brought up a lot. It's like the Reggie the Reggie one. Like, how much of that is based on what he did after what he did at ASU? I think a lot of it was. So I'm fine with him being left off the list, but I do think it's
Finley. There's my other random one. I had a kaleidoscope with Steve Finley at the end of it. Which is just the most 2000s thing they give out at baseball games.
Yeah. Any other, before we get out of here, any other either things about this list or just random athlete names you want to drop?
Travis Lee, the first Diamondback.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's not random.
It's not that random.
Gerald just wanted to say fat.
Mile Giles. Remember her?
Giles.
Orlando Hudson.
Hell yeah.
The O-Dog.
Thanks for joining us. Drop any more random athletes if you got them in the chat. We appreciate it. We appreciate you tuning in. We're here every Monday.
Manny Wilkins. Did you see him recently?
See him, like what he looks like?
Former Sun Devils quarterback.
What does he look rough or something?
He looks like he's like hasn't shaved.
He looks awesome.
2 years.
He looks like I think he's like an artist now.
Oh, okay.
He looks awesome.
Artist formerly known as Manny Wilkins.
Yeah.
Shout out Shannon Evans. He's at ASU football game last night. But again, we appreciate you tuning in. We're here every Friday at 12:30. Usually it's me and Mackie P. I appreciate Bo joining.
Carson.
Jahi Carson.
We're going to be here all day.
He was so fucking good.
What happened to him?
He went to go play in Tunisia? No, not Tunisia. Somewhere like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he's a bucket there.
You guys are psychopaths. Again, appreciate you joining you. Appreciate Bo for tuning in. You can follow him on Twitter at Bo Brock. You can follow me on Twitter at Shawn_DePaz. You can follow Shane on Twitter at Shane Deef. Follow PHNX Sports all over the place. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, X if you call it that. If you call it that, you're a weirdo, in my opinion. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like, leave a 5-star review, all the good things. And again, we'll be back here on Friday at 12:30. But until then, enjoy your weekend, everybody.